By the end of tonight, you're going to know how to do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Okay? All right. Which one do you think of those as the easiest? And which one's the hardest?
Probably division.
Actually, that's not true. Multiplication and division are the easiest. Let me demonstrate. Multiplication. 3 times 6.
18.
Now let's talk about the opposite of multiplication, which is division. What is 18 divided by 6?
3.
What is 18 divided by 3?
6.
Okay. So a positive number times a positive number is very easy, and division is just remembering all of these products, so you can do it in reverse. You think you have that down pretty good, and that's something you can practice on your own. In other words, if you spend time on those flashcards, you'll just get repeated multiplication problems, and you'll end up memorizing all of your tables. Okay? So let's talk about what's much harder, which is addition and subtraction. Well, let's ignore subtraction for the moment and talk about just addition. There's only 3 possibilities when you're adding something. You can add 2 positive numbers together. What's that equal to?
9.
Yeah, that's the same as this, without the plus signs. But it's equal to 9. And most people don't have much problems with adding 2 positive numbers. Is that?
Yeah, wait. Oh, that's 14.
Okay. Now let's talk about adding 2 negative numbers. What's that equal to?
That's equal to positive 7.
No, when you add 2 negative numbers, it's always negative.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. When you are adding, do not confuse it with multiplication. When you are multiplying, 2 negative numbers becomes a positive. But when you are adding, 2 negative numbers stay negative.
Oh, okay.
Okay. That.
Negative 13.
Okay. Now, okay, so that's easy enough when you're adding 2 positive numbers or you're adding 2 negative numbers. Just remember the rule. Now, the hardest part of addition is when you have a positive number
Plus a negative.
plus a negative number. What do you do here? We talked about it yesterday. There's a strategy.
The biggest number is the sign.
Well, yes, that's part of it. So we know it's going to be a negative sign because the bigger number is 7, right?
Yeah.
But then what do you do with the 2 numbers? You add them or do you subtract them?
Subtract.
Yeah. So what's the answer?
Negative 2.
Okay, cool. Let's try another one.
-5.
These can look a little different. In other words, I don't always have parentheses around them. So what's that?
+1.
What?
+1.
+1. Okay. So whenever you're adding or whenever you're adding a positive number and a negative number, I think you know how to do it now. Okay? And guess what? That's the only combinations you can do. When you are adding two numbers, they're either both positive, they're either both negative, or one is positive and one is negative. Okay? All right. So now we know how to do multiplication, we know how to do division, we know how to do addition. The last remaining thing is subtraction. And guess what? If I have a positive number minus another positive number, you know how to do that. What is that?
Oh, but that's just 2.
Okay. Now let's say I switch the two numbers. You know how to do that?
That's still 2.
It's -2.
-2, yeah.
The difference in the second one is you are subtracting a bigger number than you're starting with. In other words, you're starting with 7, you're subtracting a bigger number, 9, so the answer always has to be negative. And it's, go ahead and subtract the numbers, but you know that answer is 2. Okay? Now, these kind of subtraction problems, I want you to do it this way. I just want you to do them as subtraction problems. Okay? All right, hold on. Let me give you a few more just to test you.
-7.
I want you to give me these as quickly as you can, because speed does matter.
-2. -11.
Oh,
No, wait, no, -6.
okay. Okay, now that covers almost everything. Those are the only subtraction problems I want you to do that way. When you have a subtraction problem that involves a negative number, such as this, I'm going to put this number in parentheses. But this is a subtraction problem involving a negative number, which the other two cases were not. They were just two numbers being subtracted. One case, one was bigger, and the other case, the other one was bigger. Whenever you have a subtraction problem that involves a negative number, like this -6,
Yeah.
what are we going to do? We're going to turn it into an addition problem every single time.
Okay.
What do we turn into an addition sign? Which dash?
The middle one.
So in order to do that, I've got to change the sign on what was being subtracted. What was being subtracted was a +1. So if I'm going to add it, I have to change it to a -1. Now we have an addition problem. You know how to do this. What is this?
You turn into a negative number?
Yeah. It's an addition problem is the thing. You know how to do all addition problems. This is the sum of two negative numbers.
So you add the two negative numbers?
Yes.
And that would be -7?
Yes. Okay. So that's one type of subtraction problem that I want you to do as an addition problem. And there's another. Whenever any negative number is involved, I want you to do it as an addition problem.
Okay.
How do I turn this into an addition problem? Which sign do I change?
The middle.
Now which sign do I have to change also?
Negative. The negative 2.
Now do the problem.
8.
So, you know how to, there's only 3 kinds of addition problems. And as long as you turn these subtraction problems into addition problems, you will be fine.
Yeah.
Now, if it helps, put parentheses around the number that's being subtracted.
Yeah.
So what is this? After you turn it into an addition problem, what does it read? Becomes minus 6, what?
Negative 2.
No. Turn it into an addition problem. What do you have to do? I want to know every step.
We have to add the plus, the middle sign, have to turn to an addition. So then
What happens to the 4 once you do that? What do you got to do to the 4?
you turn it to a negative.
Now do the problem.
Negative 10.
There you go. Let's try some more. More subtraction problems that you're going to do every single time by turning it into an addition problem. Except these.
8.
Oh,
Wait,
6 minus 2.
4.
In other words, that's a positive number subtracting another positive number. I want you to do those as subtraction problems. The moment there is a negative number involved, then I want you to do it as an addition problem. For example, that is a subtraction problem. There's your subtraction sign, and it's got a negative number right there. So this I want you to do as an addition problem. What's the answer?
I don't understand it because there's a bunch of scribbles everywhere.
Okay, you got subtraction problem, right?
Yeah.
But there's a negative number, a negative 2 involved.
Oh, that's
If there's a negative number involved, I don't want you to do it as a subtraction problem. I want you to do it as an addition problem.
So it's 8.
What's the answer?
8.
Yeah. All right. So I think you got the thing down. Let's see how you do on this other page here. In other words, I think you know your times tables and everything. The only thing you didn't know was the method. Well, now you know the method. So let's see how much you learned. What's that?
0. 3.
Are you subtracting a bigger number than you're starting with?
Negative 3.
Always. That's the first thing when you're going to do a problem as a subtraction problem, which I want you to do this as a subtraction problem. You have to determine whether you're subtracting a number that's bigger or smaller than what you started with. So that's the first thing. Once you see that you are subtracting a number that's bigger, then the answer is always negative something. -3. Go. Sign first. On all multiplication and division problems, I want you to give me the sign first. Then figure out the number.
-6. One. -1.
-1. Very good. In other words, this is a subtraction problem that we're going to turn into an addition problem. So we change the middle sign to a plus. We change the -8 to a plus. And then you're adding a negative number to a positive number. Which you subtract the two numbers and you put a sign on it of the bigger number, which is 9. So the sign is indeed -1.
Here, 11. 0.
Do it the way I taught you. Every single one of these, I want you to do that way. Turn it into an addition problem.
9.
Division's easy. Sign first.
-11. No, positive. Oh, yeah.
Oh, you were correct. Negative. When you're doing multiplication and division, one minus sign equals a minus answer. Two minus signs equal a plus answer. This is multiplication. It's only got one minus sign. Sign first.
-48.
Good. Sign first.
-24.
Good. Sign first.
-10.
Go.
-45.
Go.
18.
Go.
-7.
Good. Very good. Do this last one and then we'll go on to your homework.
-19.
Good. Very good, Jackson. Okay, let's take a look at some of these homework problems you got here. Okay. Let me think here. What do I do?
Wants me to practice on. So
What's
order
that?
of operations.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, never mind. Those are the homework problems. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm just going to download these to my computer so that I can look at them and open them so that we can see them.
Alright, well, I'll be right back. I go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Oh, and those are order of operations. She wants me to do that every problem I do.
Okay.
Hurry up and run. I'll come right back.
Okay.
Oh, I am back.
Okay, I'm about to open this file.
Here's the.
Not sure which one is first here. Okay, let's just do these real quick. These are exactly what we just were doing. I just presented a little different for you. Hold on just a second. I got to get this up here correct.
Oh crap. Mom, did you send them both pictures? Crap, there's a whole other thing. I just pulled up. My phone, my computer's about to die.
Okay, Jackson? Jackson.
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay,
I was gonna.
number 1. Can you see it?
Yeah.
What's the answer? You're adding a negative number to a positive number.
-5.
What?
-5.
Correct. Do number 2. That's a subtraction problem. You're going to turn into an addition problem.
Yeah. -24.
Very good. Do number 3. Adding a positive number to a negative number.
+2.
In your mind, you can always put parentheses around a negative number like that. So what is it?
+2.
Yep. How about number 4? That's multiplication. Give me sign first. Didn't hear.
No, I can't see it.
Can't see number 4?
No.
Really?
I see -10. And then a parenthesis.
Do you have your go to meeting screen on full?
No. Oh, no, I do. Okay.
Hit the 2 arrows on that go to meeting screen. The 2, not the X, but the 2 arrows that point towards one another.
I got it.
Okay, now can you see the full number 4 problem?
Yeah.
Sign first.
+20?
Yeah. Now, there's a reason I want you to give me the sign first on multiplication and division, because you can. When you're doing an addition problem like number 3, you don't know what the sign is when you first do it. First of all, you got to subtract the 2 numbers. So that's why I don't ask for sign first on those addition and subtraction problems. But I do want you to think sign first always on multiplication and division. How about number 5?
Give me my pink in bed. Hey, where's my charger, Mom? I don't know. I don't know where Mom put it. Mom put my charger somewhere too.
Jackson.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Number 5.
Sign first.
-4.
Number 6.
-24. No, 27. Sorry.
Good. That's good. Number 7.
Number 7.
It's a subtraction problem. You're going to turn into an addition problem because there's multiple negative signs.
-14.
Very good. Number 8.
Positive 6.
Good. And actually, I was wrong. On these addition problems, you can put the sign first because you can see which is the bigger number. So you can tell immediately whether it's going to be a positive sign or a negative sign. In other words, you know that 10 is bigger than 4, so it's the plus that's in front of the 10 that you're going to start with. Okay, so these are done, and we can practice on the others. You want me to open the second page before I do that?
Sure, yeah.
Let's see what's on that. This looks like the same page. Okay, I see down at the bottom, learning target. I will be able to add and subtract fractions with a common denominator. Should we work on that?
Yeah.
Okay. I can certainly make up problems, so I don't need problems from you. So when you have a fraction that you add to another fraction, and they have the same denominator, what's the answer? In other words, what you do is once you get the same denominator, so all you do is add the numerators. So what is it? What's 3 plus 1?
4.
And the denominator stays the same.
Yeah.
Now, you got to reduce that. What's 4 divided by 2?
2.
So that's the answer. So as long as you have similar denominators, what's the answer?
The answer is 6/7.
Okay. In other words, positive and negative, same thing. Same rules apply as with regular numbers when you're adding and subtracting. You're adding a positive number to a negative number.
Yeah, so it would be positive 2/7.
Yep. In other words, do it one thing at a time. Do that first. And then just bring forth the 7. So when the denominators are the same, it's really just like adding whole numbers. Okay? Now let's talk about when the denominators are not the same.
Yeah.
Well, we have to make them the same.
Yeah.
In order to make them the same, we have to come up with a least common denominator. What is the least common denominator here going to be?
4.
Okay, so I'm going to do it like this, and this is the way I want you to do it when you're doing it on paper. Okay. How many fourths is 1/2? In other words, we have to turn that into fourths. It's 2/4, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This started as 1/4, didn't change it. Now what's the answer?
2/4. No, wait, 3/4.
Okay. What is the common denominator?
6.
How many sixths is 1/2 equal to?
3.
How many sixths is 1/3 equal to?
Rose, stop it. Sorry. It's equal to, let's see here. 3? No, 2, sorry.
Okay, here's what you do to figure it out. You take the 3, you divide it into the 6. What do you get?
2.
And you multiply 2 times the numerator, which is 1. So you get that.
Yeah.
Now add those two fractions that now have the same denominator.
5/6.
You got it. All right, let me try a different one here. Let me think for a moment. two positive fractions. So all we got to do is find a common denominator and then just operate on the numerators. What's the common denominator?
2.
Okay,
Wait, no,
you can always get a common denominator by multiplying the two denominators. Always.
6.
In other words, that is always a common denominator, and you can do the math with that. What makes it a little bit easier is if you get the least common denominator, the smallest one. But in this case, that's also 6.
Yeah.
Now, how do we figure out how many sixths 2/3 is?
Well, 2/3 is...
Divide the 3 into the 6. Take your answer, multiply it by the numerator.
It's 4/6.
Good. Do the same thing on the halves. Divide 2 into 6. Take your answer, multiply it by the numerator.
15.
Now add those two fractions.
19. 6.
Excellent. Very good, Jackson. All right. Let's keep practicing that. I'm going to make it a little bit harder. Now, 3 positive fractions. And we need to find the least common denominator. Because if I multiply those 3 numbers together, I get 48. And that's too big of a number. We don't need to use a number that big. We need to use the least common denominator. I'm going to show you how to find that. Okay?
Sure.
Take the biggest denominator, 8. Do the other two numbers divide evenly into 8?
No, 2 don't.
So let's add 8. Take 16. Do the other two numbers divide into 16?
No.
Let's add another 8 to it. We've got 24. Do the other two numbers divide evenly into 24? Bingo, we found it. And that's the way you find it, always. We didn't have to go all the way to 48. 48 would have been a common denominator. We could have done the problem. It would just been harder because the numbers would have been bigger. Now, what's my numerator on the left term? What is 1/8 equal to in terms of 24ths?
Wait, can you repeat that? I couldn't hear.
How many eighths or how many 24ths is 1/8 equal to? That's what we have to do, is we have to convert that fraction to some number of 24ths.
1/8 is equal to 3 24ths.
Yeah, you're dividing 8 into 24. You're getting 3. You're multiplying the numerator 1 by 3. How about 1/3?
Oh. Yeah. What? I can hear you.
1/3. How many 24ths is 1/3?
1/3 is 8.
And how many 24ths is 1/2?
12.
Add those 3 numbers together. What do you get?
Well,
Just add the numerators.
23.
And the denominator stays as 24. In other words, as long as I'm adding or subtracting, the denominator doesn't stay the same once you get the same denominators. If you're multiplying, it's totally different. Let's talk about multiplying fractions. This is the easiest thing in the world. Just multiply numerators, multiply denominators. You don't have to find a least common denominator when you're multiplying. So what's the answer?
12. 6 12.
Simplify.
6 3/6.
Okay, that's not all the way down though. Keep simplifying that.
1/2.
You got it. Always down to the lowest it'll go, which is 1/2. If you put this on the test, you'll get it right, but you'll lose a point.
Yeah.
To not lose any credit, you want to get it down to that. Now, how do I turn 6/12 into 1/2 directly without doing it the way you did it? Well, is there a number that divides the numerator and the denominator evenly when I'm looking at 6/12?
2.
Yeah. Is there a bigger number? You want the biggest number that divides into both the numerator and the denominator.
3.
How about 6?
Oh, yeah.
6 goes into the numerator, 6 goes into the denominator, the numerator becomes 1, the denominator becomes 2. So that's how you reduce fractions. You look for the largest number that divides into top and bottom. How about that? Reduce that for me. What's the largest number that divides both the numerator and the denominator evenly?
4.
Okay, let's put a 4. I'm going to divide. I can always do this. Now what does that give me?
That gives you 2 and 3. 2/3.
What's the denominator?
3 2/3.
You got it. It's as simple as that. Okay? So multiplying fractions is much, much easier than adding fractions. Okay? And guess what? Dividing fractions is also easier. How do I divide fractions?
How do you divide fractions?
It's a little bit like changing subtraction to addition. In this case, we're going to change division to multiplication.
You multiply on each side by the denominator?
The reciprocal, right? The reciprocal of the denominator. We multiply by, you know what the reciprocal means. You flip it.
I don't completely remember.
What's the answer? It's now a multiplication problem.
8 ninths?
You got it. Can that be simplified?
No.
No, you cannot find a number that divides equally into 8 and also into 9. So fractions is no problem. Even a complicated fraction like this. Let's do this. Turn that into a multiplication problem. What does it become?
5/7 times 8/5.
Got to flip the bottom, always.
Oh.
In other words, right now, the problem is 5/7 divided by 8/5. So it can't possibly be 5/7 multiplied by 8/5. It's got to be different. And the difference, in other words, in order to turn division into multiplication, you've got to flip the bottom, not the top, the bottom, always. So I'm going to multiply it by 5/8. What's that equal to?
25 58. 56.
56. Okay. And can that be simplified? There's a lot of numbers that divide evenly into 56. There's not so many that divide into 25. There's only one, 5. 5's the only number besides 25 and 1 that divide into 25 evenly. So 5's the only one you have to check. In other words, if 5 doesn't go into 56, then that thing can't be reduced. And it doesn't. The only thing that's divisible by 5 are numbers that end in 0 or 5. In other words, these numbers. Only those numbers right there are divisible by 5. Have to end in a 5 or a 0. Okay?
Yes.
All right. So, I want to go back just and practice. In other words, now it feels to me like you know how to do this. Let me just find the sum, difference, product, quotient. Okay, I didn't get the lower part of that page. So there looks like there's more problems, probably 9 through 16 or something.
Yeah.
I assume you have those, but you should be able to do those now. In other words,
Yeah.
sum is adding, difference is subtracting, product means multiplying, quotient means dividing. You know how to do all those things now with fractions and whole numbers. So, let's go to this again and just drill. In other words, this is what I want you to do on your own, but you haven't really been able to do it on your own because you haven't known how to do it. Now you know how to do it. Now it's just a question of practicing it. You're actually not bad at your times tables. You're pretty good. What's been slowing you down is these signs. You had a lot of trouble getting the signs right and knowing that addition was called for or subtraction was called for. So let's just practice. These are going to come at you in all kinds of order. It might be multiplication, might be addition, might be division, whatever. When it's multiplication and division, or division, excuse me, I want you to give me the sign first every time, even if it's a plus.
Positive 88.
Good.
14. Uh,
9 first. Once you get the sign, then ignore the sign. Then it's a straight problem without signs.
Positive 8.
Yeah. See, when you get the positive, then the only thing left is to divide 8 by 1. Now, this is a subtraction problem. I want you to turn it into an addition problem because I see 2 negative signs. Only time I ever want you to do subtraction as subtraction is when there's 1 subtraction sign. That's the only negative sign you see.
Positive 16.
Good.
12.
It's a tough one. Answer is 11. I'll go ahead and do that one for you. I want you to do this one.
Negative 10.
Very good. I think you're getting the hang of it, Jackson. Now you just got to retain this. You got to take what you've learned tonight and remember it. And the way to do that is to practice these on your own. I mean, I'll spend the rest of the evening doing this, but it's a little silly for you guys to pay me to have you practice this because you can do it on your own for free.
Negative 6. 0.
Once you see that 0 in multiplication, you know the answer. It doesn't matter what the other number is.
4. Negative 1. 2, I mean?
Negative 2.
Negative 8.
Very good. What is this the same as? I want you to give me this problem worded in a different way. Instead of -1 minus 5, how can we word it as an addition problem?
Well, it's -1 plus -5.
Perfect. What's that?
-6.
That's the way you do those. Now notice that this is actually the same as -2 minus 10. They've already changed it into an addition problem for you though. And when they word it like this as an addition problem, it's much easier, isn't it? Because you don't have to do that step. They've already done it for you.
-12.
I want you to do these as fast as you can.
Okay.
Speed may not seem like it's important, but it is.
-11.
It's 11 times 7. What's 11 times 7? It is negative.
7. Sorry, -77.
77.
14.
Fast.
2.
Fast.
0.
Only when you're multiplying and dividing. This is a subtraction.
11.
Is it positive or minus?
Positive.
We are taking a larger number. We have a smaller number minus a larger number. Whenever that is the situation, your answer has to be negative.
Okay.
11's bigger than 0, right?
Yeah.
So I'm subtracting a larger number from a smaller number. So the answer has to be negative. What's the number?
-11.
Go.
2.
Go.
+44.
Go.
Set your timer for 9 minutes. 1.
Go. First, always, when you see more than one minus sign, turn it into an addition problem.
+14.
Exactly.
Oh, 25. Positive.
Good. Keep going.
9.
Oh, sign first of all.
+9.
No. How many negative signs do you see?
1.
And we're doing division. So the answer is always minus. If I have two minus signs, then the answer is plus. If I have 2 plus signs, the answer is plus. If I've got just one minus sign, it doesn't matter whether it's in the numerator or the denominator. My answer is minus. Now what's 49 divided by 7?
49 divided by 7 is -9.
7.
Oh wait, yes, 7. Sorry. I was thinking about
One way to remember this is just knowing your squares. Let's go through squares. What's 2 squared? 2 times 2.
4.
What's 3 squared?
9.
What's 4 squared?
16.
5 squared.
25.
6 squared.
36.
7 squared.
49.
Here you go, right here. 49 divided by 7 has to be 7. And it's negative because the denominator is negative. Go.
Positive 12.
Good.
-7.
Get the sign right. How many negative signs do you see?
Oh, it's a positive.
Okay? And any number times 1 is the number. Just like any number minus itself is what?
0.
And don't have to worry about a sign. 0 does not carry a sign. It is neither positive nor negative. This one?
6.
Good. Excellent.
Negative 9.
Okay. You're actually pretty good at these. You've made tremendous strides tonight. The only thing lacking still is a little speed. I want you to get faster on it. And there's only one way to get faster. That's with practice.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And speed is important because when you take a math test, you got to do dozens of these every minute. When you solve an algebraic equation, you have to do a bunch of these little tiny single-digit multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction of single-digit numbers. So that's why speed is important, because you got to do a ton of them. So if you don't want to take 10 minutes to solve an algebra equation, if you want to solve it in 2 minutes, you got to get faster on your arithmetic. Like I said, there's only one way to get fast. It's not going to come from me. I can't improve your speed. You've played video games, I presume.
Yeah.
How do you get better at video games?
Playing them a lot.
You betcha. Same thing with math. That's how you get better at arithmetic, is to practice it. And practice it, try to go fast. And it'll tell you if you make a mistake. Notice if I put in -8 there, it tells me try again. So you need to be looking at that box if you're doing this on your own. And I put in the right one, it says correct. Okay, what's this?
0.
What's this?
19.
This?
17. 18.
It's good. This?
16.
Good. I don't care if you don't know this. I think it's 131 minus 132. Okay, this one. Do this one.
17. 11. Negative 11.
Negative 11. Now tell me what the sign on this is going to be first, before you give me the number. Normally I only do that to you on multiplication and division, but I realize that you can do it on problems like this.
-3.
Yeah, in other words, you can know that the answer has to be negative because the negative sign is in front of the bigger number. You know it's actually a subtraction problem, even though it looks like an addition problem, but you're adding a positive to a negative number. That's really what you're doing, is going to subtract. So the first thing you need to know is what's the final sign? It's 3, or it's negative, and then 11 minus 8 is 3. This one?
-5.
Negative 3. Be careful on your 5s. Count by 5 for me. Count by 5. 5, 10, keep going. Stop. 15. You only had to go up 3 times, right? In other words, you started at 5, and then you went to 10, then you went to 15. You went to the third one. Keep counting by 5s. What's after 15?
20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55,
That's how you figure out something's divided by 5. is by knowing that when you count by fives, you've got to go up 8 times to get to 40.
Negative 27. No, 36, sorry.
Okay. Now, one way I want you to learn the rule of 9. When I am multiplying a number by 9, the answer, the 2 digits have to add to 9. Now, 27 would work. Those 2 digits do add to 9, but that's not the correct answer. The way you do this is by your first digit of your answer is 1 less than 4. It's 3. The second digit of your answer has to add to 9. So if I start with 3, the only number that makes it add to 9 is a 6, right?
Yeah.
So that works with all 9s. What's 9 times 7? What's the first digit of the answer going to be?
63.
Exactly. Guess what? It works with every 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 5 is 5. So
Yeah.
your 9s tables actually is one of the easier ones to do. Anyway, let's call it a night, and I am super proud of you. You learned this in one session. I told you were going to know it. Now the only thing is you got to retain that.
Yeah.
So you got to practice it a little bit. Either do your homework, you got some homework problems you can do, or stay on this flashcards, whatever.
Okay.
Jackson, have a good one. I'll talk to you next time.
All right.
Bye-bye.